everybody, welcome to the show. Jim Zub is back for what feels like it's been like a year. No, 2. Jim's done the math.
2 plus years.
2 plus
That's
years.
Right.
It's been the last time. And it's funny because you and I have done, like, we could have had a series, basically.
It's true. We were chatting up a storm there pretty frequently for a while. Yeah. And then, life got in the way and the world got busy and things have been crazy. But we realized it is time. We have to make it happen again. The Sal Zub combo is potent and needs to be continued. So
Agreed.
Yeah, I see you at conventions, and that had been I filled up my Sal meter enough, and I hadn't even realized.
Like, that's certainly what band-aids over it, because I'll see you and we'll talk, right. And then I'll be like, well, that was like a show.
Exactly. That guy can't stop talking. Clearly, that was enough content for a show. Exactly.
Yeah. How was San Diego Comic-Con for you? That was the last
Oh my
time
gosh, San Diego was insane, and it was also the start of a marathon. So yes. I did 5 conventions in 6 weeks that started with San Diego Comic-Con. So San Diego, of course, the big pop culture explosion. Literally a week later, I was at Gen Con, the big gaming Dungeons and Dragons show. Then I think I was home for a week, and then I did WorldCon, which is the world's oldest fantasy and science fiction convention in a different city every year. Then I did Fan Expo Canada, and then I did Dragon Con, which is like nerdy gras end to the summer. It was bonkers. It was really good. Well, that show is 5 hotels plus a convention center.
Yeah.
And the street is just a party. I was in one of the convention hotels for guests, and we were up on the 11th floor, and you could hear the oonce of the dance music like all night.
Yeah.
The cosplayers just like running rampant on the streets. It was a very celebratory end to the convention, summer, but it was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah.
I've never been to Dragon Con, but anybody who's ever goes, you've got to go. And for me, it sounds like it's a really, it's a
really fun show. It used to have a much different reputation. I mean, it is the not to get too into it used to be known as the DTF show. So it was just like, if you're a nerd who's looking for love, like it's the big, and I'm sure it still is in many quarters.
Sure.
But now it's got more of a party, just a general kind of a party air to it.
Mirth and merriment kind of celebration.
Exactly.
Of geek culture kind of thing.
Absolutely. But yeah, it had been quite a while since I had gone, but then 2 years ago, I went back for the Conan stuff. You'd figure a show called Dragon Con might be in the store and grocery. And then I missed a year, and then back this year. So it's fun. It feels like the kind of show I could probably handle every other year.
Right.
The intensity of it. But yeah, really, really good.
That's kind of how I feel about San Diego a little bit. Because when I started going about 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to do this every year.
Right.
And this past year I went, maybe every other year.
So it's weird because I had a big gap. I did it, I want to say like 13 or 14 times in a row.
Oh my God.
And then I took a break and I went, oh, wait, this is okay too. And then I had a gap. I was like, uh-oh, now I'm not able to get back into the system or whatever. I'm not, publishers aren't bringing me out or what may have you. And then luckily, Titan, the new Conan launch that we did in 2023 has been just this lightning explosion. You and I have not chatted about it. The last time we chatted was about Thunderbolts at Marvel, weirdly enough.
Oh my God.
So Conan at Titan had not launched yet. And that is now like the mainstay of my career at this point. It sounds weird to say it out loud, so I don't want to sound cocky or anything. I'm the Conan guy. So I
think it's fair to say you are the Conan guy. I mean, like,
yeah, I'm the flagship writer of Conan the Barbarian, which I love saying, and I get a big smile on my face.
Yep.
And I've signed a long-term contract on the series. So I'm going to be on the book for a minimum of 50 issues till the end of 2027, which gives me the ability to plan stuff out. And it gives me the ability to foreshadow things and set up and pay off and do big mythic kind of stuff in a way that I just never had a chance to do in a book before. It's like, not to sound too dorky, but like, let Zub cook, like,
yes.
That feeling of just like, look what I can do when you give me the runway. Like, please. I love these characters,
It's unprecedented today. It's a kind of thing that, like, when Conan was launched, at Marvel in the first place.
Sure.
You could imagine Stern as like, yeah, I got time. I got runway.
Right.
But
Yeah. Well, Roy Thomas did over 100 issues of the original run of Conan, and that was the kind of thing you would see a writer like a Roger Stern or Chris Claremont or, those Ann Nesenti or people like that, Louise Simonson. They would do these long runs, and that was just like I know it sounds corny to say, their day job. Like that was what they did. You knew them as the Spider-Man person or X-Men. Got to do it.
I do that. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And now, of course, I think it's the attention economy and all that kind of stuff. People are turning around these series, or everything's a miniseries and diminishing returns and all that kind of stuff. So it's difficult. You can see from a publisher's point of view, they want to make the maximum impact. And an issue, 28 doesn't feel like it's got as much excitement as a new number one. But when and how many times do you pull that trigger, and how frequently? And so what is really beneficial for me being on the book at Titan, so I work with the rights holders directly for Conan.
Exactly.
They're called Heroic Signatures. And so their goal is Conan is their flagship guy. They want to have that character, long publishing life and putting the IP out in a big, big way. And that audience particularly likes the consistency. They want to collect, and they want to keep collecting. And that was sort of part of our, publishing plan when we were heading out to market. Like, okay, this isn't about a new number one every 12 issues or something. This is about, building a mythic kind of run, hoping that you bring people along for the ride and bring back old collectors and welcome new collectors and fans on board. If someone is, read the original Robert E. Howard stuff in the 1930s or the reprints in the 40s and 50s and 60s, they read the comic in the 70s, or they saw the movie in the 80s, or they play the video games in the here and now, there is something here for you. There is something that you can, hold on to and enjoy. And thankfully, we've been able to do that with the series. But it means I get to plan. I get to plan long-term, and I get to do these big swings.
Yeah.
In a way I've honestly never had a chance to do on any other book except for my creator-owned stuff, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and what's wonderful is you have the experience and the insight, from developing Skull Kickers to running books like Thunderbolts or any other number of Marvel titles, or those beautiful new No Surrender miniseries.
Avengers, or worked on Dungeons and Dragons and Rick and Morty, Champions and Samurai Jack, and just all these different books where I've been able to jump in and do cool things with it. And in many of those cases, especially the monthly books, stuff like Thunderbolts or Champions, hoping that I could get one of those kind of seminal runs where you're able to build and build and build.
Yes.
And the reality of the publishing market has always been shaky, and you're not always able to do those kinds of things. Not everyone gets to Immortal Hulk, you know what I mean? And that's the thing. It feels like we've got that kind of momentum, and we kind of have the numbers as well, in the sense that our sales are going up on the book. So issue 24 came out a couple weeks ago, and they're higher than 23, it's higher than 22, and so on and so forth. So we're doing that kind of, I don't want to put us in that rarefied air completely, but it is more like Walking Dead or Invincible or Immortal Hulk or things like that, where people are coming on board because of that good word of mouth. And that feels really, really, really special. And I'm incredibly thankful to the retailers and the readers that are, telling other people about it and hand selling the hell out of it, because it just makes a huge difference in terms of our staying power.
Well, it seems like Titan has a lot of faith, not just in their brand, but also in you as a creator and your desire to see this character and his world grow, expand. Yeah,
when I launched the book, they promised, 12 issues no matter what.
Which is an unprecited offer.
I don't know. It shouldn't be.
I know it shouldn't be. But in today's world, it's you got to do 12 issues. I mean,
you're going to do 12.
Tomorrow got 8.
Right. And so we're in this, realm where I looked and I said, okay, they do these 4-issue trade paperbacks. So I have 3 arcs. How can I tell an epic story that seeds the potential of doing more, but also if all we get are those 12, then we're going to get this epic adventure and really kind of pay it off.
Yeah.
And so we did the issue 0, the free comic book day. And that was like a mission statement. We put out this book and we said, okay, this is what we're all about. If you loved Conan back in the day, we got this Bronze Age beauty kind of back in a new way. It's a mature reader's book. So, if you're reading it in the 70s and you were 15, now it's going to be this grown-up kind of title that has grown with you and reflects the pulp sensibility. But if you've never read the character before, you can totally step in. It's very, very simple and really exciting and epic and all that kind of stuff. And so by the time issue 1 sold like crazy, we did 6 printings of the first issue. We did multiple printings of 2, 3, and 4. And so it was like, okay, by the time the first arc was over, we were like, yeah, this is working. This is where we want it to be.
I'm sure that everyone, the rights holders tightened. They were all like, oh yeah, okay,
everyone
we made
was
the right
thrilled.
decision.
Well, and even, the conversations early on were like, even if we're on a bit of shaky ground in the English market, we've got the foreign market because Conan's popular as an international property. So there was this sort of sense of, as long as the book can hold its own in English, we can make it up in other languages. Yeah. And now the book is doing so well, we've picked up more languages than before. So Conan's in 11 languages if you include English. So I'm getting international invites like I've never had before. And I'm not saying that like to be cocky. It's more just like, oh my God. This is amazing.
It's worth mentioning and celebrating because of its, because it's working and because of how successful it is, and because you too can be this if you just invest in yourself.
And I think again, that consistency, I think, is really an important part of that we're telling readers, not just, hey, be here for a 4-issue miniseries or something, but stick around and it'll be worth your while. Jump on issue 1 book 1, and those volume 1s are really turning. We're now doing a deluxe hardcover version of the first arc. Nice. And if that does well, they're going to go back and do these beautiful oversized versions of each arc going forward. I just handed in my outline for arc 9 of the series, and you're just like, that's a nice feeling. That's an exciting thing. And yet verbally, I've already talked way past that. I already know the ending, and I've talked to my editor, Chris, all about it and where it's going to go and why. And so we are now just saying, okay, we know where we're going to be at issue 50. We know what each year we're doing these event miniseries that are kind of capstones on these thematic ideas that we're building.
Yeah.
We already know what those are all the way through 2027. Now it's just executing on it and then looking and saying, is the plan still where we thought it would be? Oh, it's even better. Or, oh, we can add more, or we can do different things and improve upon it. But we have that laid out so that I can still surprise myself creatively as I'm working through on any individual story.
Yeah.
But I know what it's in service to, and that's just going to make a way better final thing. And if we can stick the landing, and you never know until, history will decide or whatever, then you've got this really cool block. You've got this amazing, what you hope for is that people look back years from now and they say, man, that was a really special time to be collecting. Or if you've never read, this is a really wicked, section of Conan history.
Yeah.
And that I get to be associated with that for the rest of my career. This weekend, I'm going to Chattanooga Comic-Con, and one of the guests is Ron Mars, who's become a friend of mine. And then he's still, people still bring him Green Lantern stuff, and they still talk to him about Silver Surfer and like all these other books that he did through the 90s. And I'm sure there's part of you that goes, oh man, you're only worried about stuff I did, 30 years ago. But on the other hand, you go, man, they still care about stuff I did 30 years ago. Like that.
And it's not just a line of people in their like 50s.
For sure.
Like, it's people who are finding it later on who are like, I loved, the John's run and I got into Green Lantern. So suddenly I read, that other stuff. And now I love this more. And, the Kyle, because they put the books in print, because like that Kyle Rayner book was reprinted recently in a nice, big, beautiful chunk. People can jump in and read it and become
and realize it's really good stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Same thing as with yours. I mean, like,
that's what I'm hoping, right? Like I remember one of my first Marvel signings I did at San Diego Comic-Con, and I think I had like 2 issues of Thunderbolts had come out. This is like 2015, 2016, San Diego. And I'm signing at the same time as Dan Slott. And people are bringing these Funkin' Wagnall's dictionary size omnibuses of Spider-Man, and he's signing them all, and I'm helping stack up these comics beside him. And it was fun. Dan's always a lot of fun to interact with, and he's so joyous, and just like the joy of comics and the joy of Spider-Man was just always pouring out of him. But there was that moment of, and it wasn't even jealousy, it was just like, oh man, I want
that. Like I want that stack. I want a stack of books.
When they collect this stuff at some future juncture, I want it to be in a book thick enough that if you drop it off a 3rd-story landing, it would kill a child. Like, I want that, omnibus from hell. Like, that would be so cool. That is such a milestone of hard work. And, that it feels so good to be able to realize you're collaborating with all these amazing people, you're building something, and then people decided they wanted to keep it in this archival kind of format. That is
Sure.
such a cool thing.
Yeah. And
so,
okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that it's a litmus test. I think you bring that body of work with you, not just for the rest of your career, not just for like your own personal accolade, but also for the next because writers never stop. Right, writers never quit. So
well, yeah, and
but
getting
the
the chance,
job, it's like, well,
right, to
what have I been
work
doing?
on and exactly. Yeah, check this out. And getting to do it on a character that's iconic, that not just in the nerdosphere, but if you go out on the street and you say, name a barbarian, almost assuredly someone's going to say Conan. That the character has that kind of pop culture cachet across the board. And you don't have to be at a Comic-Con for anyone to know what that is. That
True.
In some ways, saying the name Conan the Barbarian summons up a whole host of things.
Yep.
It's a template, it's an icon, it's all those kinds of things. When someone says, what do you do? And you say, oh, I write comic books. Oh, anything I might know? And you say something like Batman, the Avengers, Conan, and people are just like, whoa, like that summons a certain amount of excitement, because it also summons that excitement in you as well.
Well, and Conan fans are a particular fan.
Man. They're intense in the best way.
When they find out there's more Conan, they get pretty. There's a particular number of fandoms that are not comics related. That when you hear, oh, they're making more of that in any regard, then I'm just going to gobble it up.
Sure, absolutely. And so now we're in this really cool spot. I guess this all kind of thematically pushes forward because I have the room and because we have the space and because we're planning this thing out, I've been able to do some really special stuff. And so a perfect example of that is our upcoming issue number 25. So yes. I am beating the drum on this because, man, oh man, it is really extra special.
Yeah.
I knew our 25th issue we were going to make, it's something big. And we were chatting over a year ago about exactly what that could be. I wanted to do my first King Conan story. So we're reflecting forward to that important period of his later years. I also wanted it to be exercised so that people get a complete story, start to finish in one issue, like you would with the annuals or the specials back in the day.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get, the highest kind of tier of artists possible. And who wouldn't want that? But then you're like, on this anniversary issue, now you've got a better chance of pulling it off.
True.
And so we were talking about who could do it and who's available and all this kind of stuff. And Alex Horley is this amazing painter. He's been doing stuff, magic cards and illustrations and cover stuff for years, but he is a full-blown, comic artist as well. And he had mentioned that he was interested in doing some sequentials. I think he assumed like Savage Sword, like a, maybe a ink wash kind of painted sort of thing. And we brought him this much bigger challenge. And we said, look, 36 page, fully painted story. And this was start of September last year. We said, how much time would it take you to do? This thing's going to come out October 2025. And he goes, I need to start right now. And we were like, oh, okay. So I wrote the script for this over a year ago, and he started sending sketches in through the fall and then started producing paintings December of last year. And then once we hit the new year after the holiday break, he was usually handing in a painting almost every week. And these are traditional oil paintings. This is not digital. Like, he is literally hand painting. He would do sequences and then hand in groups of pages, or he would be doing roughs and designs and stuff. He would jump to different scenes as we were nailing down the visuals on things or certain iconic moments. He was like, oh, I know what this is in my head, so I'm going to do that scene next.
Get that out of the way, yeah.
And so it was this phenomenal experience where almost every week I would be working on other Conan stuff, and we would get this surge of enthusiasm and inspiration because he would just have handed in another painting, and all of us on the team are just like, oh my God, this is crazy. Also, it's way easier for me to write, Conan fights an army worth of soldiers and then some poor bastard has to, illustrate that thing, let alone paint it. And you see the passion on the page, on the canvas, it's next level stuff. And so Conan 25 is this special story called The Nomad. If you've never read a Conan story before, you can jump in and enjoy it. But if you do know the character, or if you always wanted to see, King Conan, you saw that original movie and you're like, man, why didn't they ever do a King Conan movie? You're like, check this out. It's got this very much like a structure, like a fable. I could show you some artwork if you want to check it out.
I would love to. I will admit, I have been sent some preview pages of
sweet
of Conan 25, and
so I'll show you some.
It's sick, man.
So this is the main wraparound cover that Alex did. And again, it's a painting. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
I don't even remember if we sent him a thing that said, make it a wraparound. I think we just said, he just sent, well, we got to do a wraparound. And then it's like, well, you can't say no to that. What the hell, man? It's absolutely ridiculous. And then one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to get as many of the artists who'd worked on the series at Titan involved in this celebration. But obviously Alex is doing the main cover and the interior. So we got everyone who's drawn the book so far since 2023 to do a variant cover. So everyone gets to celebrate, which I'm very happy about. So this is Roberto Della Torre. He did, and I said, pick iconic moments from, Conan history. This is obviously Frost Giant's daughter.
Yep.
Then we've got Doug Braithwaite did an awesome moment, like fighting this giant bat, like from one of the classic comics, which is so good.
Yeah.
This is Jonah Sharf, who did the Blackstone miniseries with me last year, our big event book. Again, this sort of shattered moment of all these wicked things from Conan's past. That's Danica Breen doing a moment from Red Nails, another classic story. This is Fernando Dagnino, who just finished the Nest of Serpents story arc, and obviously he's doing his take on the Tower of the Elephant.
Yeah.
This one's fun. This is Mike Ruth. He and I just did a story in Savage Sword, and this is a retailer exclusive cover for a store called Dungeon Comics. And
cool.
So he asked for the old logo and everything else, which I thought was really classy. And it looks really, really sharp. And then this one is Alfredo Cardona. So he didn't work on the main series, but he and I are next to each other at New York Comic Con this year. So he did a cover up, and we're going to have this available at New York as an exclusive.
Oh, that's dope.
So that's pretty sweet too. So yeah, it's just been, it's an amazing experience to be able to bring all these people in the door and celebrate with them. And then now I'll show you some of the spiffy interiors. Don't want to spoil anything, but I'll just show you a handful of pages here.
Yeah,
so
sure.
This is the opening of the story, no text. So I structure it like a fable. Think of it like an Arthurian legend, like the Green Knight or something like that. So there's this stranger wandering the land, and he has come to Aquilonia and eventually to Tarantia, the capital, and he wants to question the king, the Lion of Aquilonia.
Yeah.
And I'll show you it just again, every page is such a stunner.
Yeah, it is.
So that is the capital for our big spread.
Yep.
And just ridiculous, amazing. The
yeah.
title and the credits are all over top of that. And then it goes from there. So this figure goes to the guards and essentially says, I wish to see the king. And they're like, who are you? Why would we let you in? You have no invite. You have no nobility. Go away. Unless you have the patience of a saint, you will never see King Conan. And he sits down and meditates for as long as it takes until they finally let him in.
Yeah.
And then we show the king himself. And it's just like, you write these scenes, but if the art doesn't do the stuff, it doesn't matter how cool the idea is in your mind.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's great about working with a guy like Alex is every scene is elevated. Every scene is just next level and phenomenal. And what is the stranger brought, and what kind of challenges he going to issue forth to old King Conan? Well, you got to read and find out. That's the cool part about it. But it's not all like slow and atmospheric, let me tell you. There's some big crazy action. Once we hit about 1/3 of the way through the story, things really kick into gear. Again, don't want to spoil anything, but check this out. We do some great flashback stuff, which I'm super proud of. So again, we get to show these iconic moments and build, and then issue the challenge to Alex, like, hey, let's show Venarium. So this is the battle that made Conan a man.
Yeah.
And we can get away with a touch more violence with a mature reader's book in the best way possible.
Right.
And it really goes from there. And so every page, feels like cover quality, and the atmosphere is just off the charts. I feel so fortunate that I've had the chance to work on this thing, and I did it outline style. So we went back and did the dialogue afterwards. And so then it's sort of the way Roy Thomas would do it, or Stan Lee, or those guys. So now I'm not hoping that the expressions will match. I know exactly what the expressions are, or how much room I have on the page to fill it with dialogue, or to bring that sweeping kind of lyrical poetic kind of flair like Robert E. Howard had to the page. And it's just been an amazing collaboration on the regular monthly issues. And obviously this one just feels like just kind of next level in terms of that collaborative process.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's a great opportunity too, because like, you know, you've hit 25. This is obviously halfway through your 50 issue run.
It's crazy, right? Yeah, that cool milestone.
And
I was talking to Zdarsky. Yeah, I was talking to Zdarsky about it, and he said, you know, other writers may have longer runs, but usually every 6 months they're looking over their shoulder like, is it my time, God?
100%.
Like, you know, yeah. Has the rapture hit me on this particular title or whatever?
Yeah.
And in this case, I don't have that fear. So I can go, great, this is now setting up that here. So like in issue 1, we teased a little thing that then I paid off in issue 13. Wow. And we did the same kind of thing again, issue 5. And then we paid it off, you know, in like issue 19, you know, like stuff like that. So more than a year later, I can have these kinds of things. And there's stuff that happened in issue 4 that I know for a fact is going to pay off in issue 49 and 50.
Nice.
So it's like, great. Yeah. You know, that's all kind of part and parcel of having that architecture in place.
Do you find that because of the nature of the property, the approach to this IP/run on this comic, that the reception from the audience is different from your standard big 2 comic, that like the audience like that it's working, you're casting, and incidentally WireNet, you're getting different folks who are not conditioned by like a Spider-Man reader or a Batman comic.
I think for sure, first of all, you know, in the 70s, the biggest books at Marvel were Spider-Man, Star Wars, and Conan.
Right.
And so I don't think that that's a coincidence in that sense. When we were putting together our publishing plan, the discussion was, look, the majority of those readers in the 70s, they're not dead, they're still around, but they're not currently collecting the books. Why? You know, what's missing, or what is not speaking to them, or why did they walk away, or, you know, do they not see value in it? Are they not tuned to even look for it?
That's probably more likely.
So we definitely wanted to create something that spoke to them, which also spoke to me and that broader kind of audience. But that didn't mean that we were going to then force out the potential for new readers. That I don't think it has to be in either or.
No, of course.
I feel like if you make a book that is welcoming, that is engaging, and these iconic characters are so, when I say simple, I don't mean like simplistic. I mean simple to explain.
Yes.
You know, Conan is the original wandering warrior. Wherever he goes, something exciting is going to happen on the edge of his blade. Like, awesome. Do you need to know, you know, it's a prehistory of our world, and I can go through all the geography of it and where those influences were pulled from. I can tell you about Robert E. Howard, the Texan author, and what things in his youth influenced his writing. And I can put those thematically into the stories, and I can reference the original stories from Weird Tales magazine in the 1930s. But you don't need to know any of that.
No.
You know,
you just have to pick up an issue, like,
and even then, you don't even know, like,
you don't need it. But it's like your contextual, your cultural context only needs to be wherever
your cultural context is you've heard of Conan, and it is like, oh, who's Conan? He's this singular badass who wanders a fantasy land, and he kills monsters, and, you know, saves beautiful women and goes on grand adventures. And you're like, oh, cool, done. Like, that's pretty straightforward. It's like any cowboy or, you know, any other kind of wandering samurai or anything like that. They're all built off that kind of template. And it's like, it's a world where magic is mysterious and dangerous. Great. There are these different religions. There's for different cultures. Cool. You'll find out in the story.
Yeah.
I need to know all that stuff and make sure I keep it consistent. I know where we are in the overall timeline and how these connect to the original Robert E. Howard stories. But you just need to know that cover looks wicked. Right. Holy crap, this artwork is so cool.
Yeah.
And if you want to fall down that rabbit hole and do that research, and you'll find a lot there to enjoy, but it's not required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also seems like everyone involved is not just doing it because they need a job, or they are looking to bat out their resume, or working with someone they've always admired. It's just, I love this character, I love this world. It gives me a chance to do something that like no one else is really offering. And
well, I think they should. I don't know. Yeah. It feels weird. There was a thing I heard several years ago where an editor and it was off the cuff. They said to me, you know, we try not to put creators on books where they're, you know, overly obsessed, because then they're going to be nitpicky instead of creative.
Yeah.
And you're like, I mean, if you hire the wrong people, you'll always get a bad output, right?
100%.
But I want someone who is passionate, and it doesn't mean there's bad types of
like fan,
that kind of the mega fan that never wants to change anything or just wants to roll it back to a status quo and freeze it in amber. Like, I think that's the difficulty with like a teen book, especially something like X-Men, where everyone has frozen in their mind, well, the perfect X-Men team is the one when I started reading and became obsessed with it. And every other team is some varied version of garbage because, well, whatever, Nightcrawler doesn't act the way he used to, and whatever, Kitty and Colossus aren't a couple anymore, or just you name it, you know, whatever.
In any of these franchises,
you got it. And so I feel like there's much more difficult things. When we kind of rolled things back and we said we want this to feel like an unearthed kind of Bronze Age classic, I feel like it was very much refinding the North Star of what Conan is. And those original pulp source material, the lyricism and the poetry that made it feel like more than just your average action book or fantasy book. That there's, if you read those original stories, they have an incredible, that they have a philosophy to them. They have this really intense kind of morality play. The atmosphere is second to none. When you read Robert E. Howard's prose, it's really, really, really potent. And Roy Thomas and Kurt Busiek and other, you know, seminal writers over the years have exemplified those qualities in their writing as well. And so it was sort of like, okay, everyone's versions could be slightly different, but we can certainly bring it back to a really central focal point. And that was really important to me. And then I said we needed to not just adapt stories. Like, if we're retelling, I love Tower of the Elephant, I love Red Nails, I love Queen of the Black Coast, but if we're just doing those stories again, either you've got the impossibility of they've been adapted in comics so incredibly well already, and B, everyone knows where those stories go if you're a fan.
Right.
And so I can't surprise you. Like, there's no, so then you're like, oh, that is a very good version of fill in the blank, but I've already seen good versions of it. So now it was like, okay, we have to do stories that take place in between those stories, but feel just as potent and just as kinetic and just as lyrical. And if we fail, let's try and get as close as humanly possible. Like, you know, if we don't strive and we don't push, because I want a cliffhanger that literally has a reader go, I can't wait to see what happens next month, instead of, oh, and then you're going to turn the corner and the spider will be there. Boop, 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 you know, like things like that. So,
Do you find with your planning that it is, I mean, we talked about it with reverence, this enthusiasm of like, thank God I got all this mileage, I got all this runway.
It's well, I loathe using the word unprecedented.
No, it's true. I hear it, but I mean,
but it does feel
it isn't
like
unprecedented
that,
in terms of like, if you know your history
in the modern,
but certainly stuff, today. You know, if someone like burst into the offices of either of the big two.
This side of Amazing Spider-Man or Batman, most people aren't going to get this kind of runway.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. Maybe Jed McKay over at Moon Knight, but
but even then it's, well, that's the thing. It's split over 4 number ones or something.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. But while you've had the time and you've probably really enjoyed the ability to write something in issue 4, have it pay off 10 issues later or more. Do you find maybe 13, 12 issues in, you're like, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit, or I want to move things around, or, oh, that's a new, that's an idea
I'm not locked in. That's the nice thing about it, is I know what those big beats are, and I know thematically what we're heading toward, and then it's just the best version of it possible. But it's not like I go, on issue 32, we have to do this, otherwise the whole thing falls apart. There's still latitude there, and there's broad brushstroke, especially that middle where we look and we say, okay, we do have to do these kinds of plot things over the next year, but what order I do them in and how I do them and where we show them, that's still up to me, you know? Or, oh man, I had this great idea, how can we add that in, or how can we weave that in? So perfect example is Doug Braithwaite did a phenomenal job with Arc 2. We wanted him to stay on board, and he doesn't generally do long runs on titles. And so he was, you know, antsy in that sense of he really wanted to do it. He's been having a wonderful time. And I said, okay, but what do you want to draw? Like, the second arc was pretty tightly planned even before he came on board. So it was more about him doing a great job with the material we gave him. Now you're on the ground floor as we're putting this together. What do you want to do? And he said, you know, those Frazetta paintings where Conan's in the frozen north are so like tattooed in his brain. He really wanted to draw something in the frozen north. And I hadn't had any plans to do anything in the north at all. I was just like, no, once he leaves Samaria, you know, and he does his little trip up to the north. And once you hit something like Tower of the Elephant or God in the Bowl, he doesn't go north again for a long time. And it's like, okay, but this is what Doug wants. Okay. And then that started to generate in my mind, okay, so the only canon story where he's in the frozen north is Frost Giant's daughter. I don't just want to do a retelling of that. What else is there in and around that we can do? And so the challenge of my collaborators is about pleasing them and pleasing the rights holders and pleasing myself, and that it's not just my way or the highway, that we are a team building this thing together. You know, when Alex and I started talking about the Nomad, that issue 25, it wasn't just about, hey man, you're going to do 36 oil paintings, get to work, back the whip. It was like, get on a call and let's get super excited. Tell me your favorite Conan moments and why, and I'll incorporate as many of those in there as possible in flashbacks or in really cool kind of, deep cuts or whatever may have you. And here's the thing that I want to do. And so we're on a Zoom call, like pumping each other up excitedly with, energy. Great. That's what I want. I want that collaborative process. And so for me, it's not about, oh, woe is me, the grand plan that I am now, strapped to this,
hitting a snag
to the railway tracks, and Conan, the steam engine's going to run over me. It's like, no, man, I get to forge this path forward. And Fernando Dagnino is an artist that I just worked on with the last story arc. And he's so awesome and he's amazing. And you're like, great, dude, what do you love to draw? What are you into? I'm thinking we're going to do this kind of thing and this kind of thing. And then he goes, oh, what if we did this? And you're like, even better. Now we're all a part of this, because I think you and I talked about this years ago when we were talking about writing advice and stuff like that. Yeah. It's a creative team. A lot of times in the modern comic era, because the writer is the most consistent part of that creative team beyond the editor, their name's on the cover and people go, whatever, it's Dan Slott's Spider-Man. And you're like, there were 10 artists on that book. They don't get their flowers because they really made that book what it was. Yep. You know what I mean? And the same sort of thing, whatever, Hickman's Fantastic Four, or you name it, fill in the blank, Jed McKay's Moon Knight. Right. And it's like, it's my Conan book, but it's our Conan book, totally. Without Roberto De La Torre and without Doug Braithwaite and without Danica Breen and without Fernando Dagnino, this book's dead in the water. Like, this thing's just not going to have worked the way it could have, Yeah. And that for me is a constant reminder to not only cheerlead for the whole team, but to incorporate them into the process as much as possible, or communicate, my excitement for their work. When we get new pages in, these guys have been working on page, 6, 7, 8 hours on a page. And you're like, looks good, hit send.
No, it's gotta
like,
be.
Come on. Like, yeah, there's times when I'm at the airport and I've got to be like, this is beautiful. I love it very much. Sorry, boarding plane, got to go.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's like, let me tell you, I recognize the effort that you're putting into this. And
absolutely.
Because I've got the art background and the teaching background and the editorial background, when you're working with someone great, why, exactly what they're doing, their responsibility, their communication, their quality, just everything in that process is so wonderful. And when I'm explaining, like, okay, we do need to make a change on this particular page, I will explain it in a way that is, let's make it the least amount of work possible for the maximum amount of impact.
Right.
And we'll have a better thing on the other side of this. Or, oh, there's a continuity error. Conan had a clasp on this side of his cloak and we lost it for 3 pages. Okay, we just need to fix that one thing and whatever. Yeah. But these are the kinds of things that we're all that creative team, spinning away on the book. And with a monthly book, man, oh man, particularly one with this expansive a schedule.
Yeah.
I've got multiple art teams working away on the series, something like Alex doing the book for a year for issue 25. That thing's cooking for such an extra long period of time. But most of the books are, one book is heading out to print and another one's entering the arena, right. Equivalent. And it's going into rough, page roughs, and then that's going to line art, and then line art's going to colors, and then lettering. If I've done outline style, I now need to do, once I've got line art, I need to do that lettering script. Sometimes someone like Doug Braithwaite, I'm doing a full script. Okay, does the dialogue still match everything that I wrote in that original script? If not, why not? What can we fix? If I can fix it in the text, I'll always fix it in the text, because it's a hell of a lot easier for me to write a sentence than it is for them to redraw panels or a page or whatever may have you. And then we've got these event miniseries that we're doing once a year. So in the fall, you're getting a double hit of Conan. You're getting the monthly book is coming out. And then last year we did Battle of the Blackstone, which was like the Howard Avengers, like all the Robert E. Howard characters kind of coming together across time to go on this epic quest. We want to do another one, each year. And this year's is different. I didn't want it to be the exact same kind of structure. So now this time we have 3 different Robert E. Howard characters. They're all going on their own adventures, but thematically and symbolically, they're all linked.
Okay.
So we're jumping from the Thurian age of Kull the Conqueror to the Hyborian age of Conan to the 1930s with this occult investigator named John Kirawan. And everything they do, they're only seeing their own individual story, but you as the reader realize symbolically things are linked together, or something that a character is doing in the Thurian age is echoing and rippling forward across time.
It's like All Good Things in TNG, where it's like,
right.
It's going back in time, and like
you got
everything that they do is affecting the present or the story.
Exactly. And so for me, it's this fun challenge to go, okay, we're doing an event book, but it's not the same as last time.
Right.
How can we make it feel compelling and interesting and cool? I'm using original Robert E. Howard stories and recontextualizing them and linking them up in unexpected ways. And then the payoff in issue 4 is absolutely wild, big, crazy, puts the next sort of pillar down on this structure of this larger thing that if you've been reading all the way along, at the end of Battle of the Blackstone, we did like a big card turn of like, oh man, this thing's bigger than you think, and it's going to be crazy. And then the end of Scourge of the Serpent, it's like, oh, this thing's crazier than you think, and you have no idea. And that's that anticipation now that you've got a cool epic adventure, but it's also, where is it going from here kind of thing. Yeah. So that's what's exciting for me. And knowing that we're going to get to the end of it at 2027. Yeah. And as long as we stick the landing, that's sounds easier than it is, but at least we'll have the chance to prove our bona fides on it. Like that I'm not worried about whether or not we're going to get to do it.
Right.
So
what goes into the planning or thinking when you have a run, when you're doing 50 issues,
right,
to do spin-off or ancillary titles
sure,
to allow everything to feel special and unique?
Right. So a lot of event books, in my experience, it almost feels like the container is built around a sales first kind of mentality, where they say, okay, in order for this to be worthwhile, we need to have 12 spin-off miniseries, and they need to be 2 to 3 issues a piece, or whatever may have you. And these ones are our flagship ones, and then these are other ones. And you can really feel it sometimes, where you read and you go, okay, what's actually important? Sometimes you can tell from the announcement, you're like, well, these are clearly the ones they came up with off the bat, and these other ones were just like, throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. So for us, it's also about justifying the cover price to the reader. And I know that sounds very highfalutin, we will never steer you wrong. Like, yes, we want to sell books. Like, I'm not an idiot.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it's like, okay, all you need to do is, if you're reading the monthly book, great. Pick up the free Comic Book Day free prequel issue for Battle of the Blackstone last year and this year's Scourge of the Serpent. Buy the 4-issue miniseries, and then we do one tie-in issue of Savage Sword. So Savage Sword, the anthology series, is back. Big, bold, black and white magazine on newsprint. It's a stunner.
Yeah.
It's an anthology, so every issue has got a lead story and then backup stories. And last year we did a Blackstone themed issue where all the heroes that were going to show up in the miniseries, we gave them each their own little mini story to show off what they were all about. And it was a ton of fun. And it was like, if you read it, you get a little more context for things. Is it absolutely necessary? No, but I think it's a lot of fun. And we got a killer creative teams on every single story. And so this year we kind of looked the same way, and we said, okay, there's stuff that we did in the main monthly book that we can then bridge over to the Scourge of the Serpent. A little more context would be useful. Great. Let's put that into Savage Sword. If you're enjoying this thing, we think you're really going to love it. There's also other Robert E. Howard characters who are affected by, Set, the Great Serpent, and all this kind of stuff. So let's put it in there.
Yep.
and make it work. So essentially it's a 4-issue miniseries and one tie-in issue of Savage Sword. And so it's like 5 issues plus the free comic book day prequel.
Yeah.
So it's like 6 issues for an event instead of 60, issues for an event or whatever. And that's the benefit of having a tighter publishing line and knowing exactly where we're going with it. Admittedly, I only really have to worry about, Conan and the Robert E. Howard character library, and Conan's 20 times bigger than any other character as far as people's visibility goes.
Sure.
But if you're managing the X-Men or Avengers or something like that, now you have so many other, characters and IP stuff to deal with. It's way, way, way more complicated.
100%.
I feel like when we did the Avengers Weekly, that was super fun because we did No Surrender and we had 16 issues to tell an Avengers epic with I think there were over 20 Avengers in there.
Yeah.
But because it was coming out weekly, we could have multiple plot lines we were juggling. But then it was just still one book every week that you were picking up, you know?
Yeah.
So
apropos of that, was there ever any conversation internally where it was like, yeah, it's one book a week, but you could expound on this. Do a side series about that.
Well, I think once the series was over, a few of them, turned into their own thing. So something like, there was the Quicksilver miniseries showing where he went after the end of No Surrender. I had pitched a Wanda and Jericho, like a brother, Dr. Voodoo and Scarlet Witch miniseries that I wanted to do that spun out of it, but it never ended up happening. We all wanted to do other things. I mean, Immortal Hulk essentially spun out of No Surrender.
Absolutely, 100%.
So it did turn into other things, but it sort of holistically grew off of it rather than it being
a direct
everything
line
simultaneously and what may have you. And I just feel like you're trying to keep the narrative thrust as clear and clean as possible.
I think that worked to its benefit, absolutely.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
When it comes to the planning and coordination of Conan, I remember when we were first talking about, when you first got the gig, you were like, they want to have everything.
Like at Marvel?
Really... Yeah. Well, no, I mean, with Titan.
At Titan, yeah.
With the whole like unified front on Conan.
Yeah.
You guys were kind of like, we want to do this, 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 and this, and have it all kind of be this like one singular engine that's made of many different like parts. Have there been any influences from your comics that have touched on any other aspect of the Conan engine?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's what's made it so exciting for me. So I've worked on all sorts of awesome stuff. Like I was co-writing Avengers when Infinity War came out and when Endgame came out, right? And that was mind-blowing, obviously, to be in the midst of this kind of pop culture explosion.
Yep.
I worked on, Rick and Morty Dungeons & Dragons when Dungeons & Dragons had seen this huge resurgence and Rick and Morty was the hottest show on television, or Stranger Things in D&D when Stranger Things was the hottest show on Netflix, or Samurai Jack when the nostalgia of that just seemed to hit its peak. And those were all amazing experiences, and I'm so thankful that I had them, but they were always informed by the greater media bubble. Like we were these little satellites around Planet Media movie.
Yeah, well, they
TV show.
Yeah, they affected you. Like you got caught in their orbit.
You got it. And that was cool because you can even be associated with those amazing things, but you're not the guiding force of that kind of thing. I think what's most satisfying and exciting for me right now is that people are talking about Conan, not because there's a new video game or a new movie, but because the comics are cool and they're getting people talking about the property again, that they're going back and they're digging into back issues, that retailers are telling me, oh, we used to throw Conans in the quarter bin and now old collections are turning again because the old collectors are coming back and buying your book. And then they want more than one a month. So they just dig into the back issues and they grab stuff or whatever. I was in Florida for MegaCon at the start of the year, and I didn't have a Conan #1. Now I do. and I bought it in Florida. I was at a retailer and we were chatting, and it's not CGC. I just wanted a good raw copy, but not pristine.
Yeah.
And copies of Conan were like a couple $1,000, CGC 9.8 or 9 or whatever. Or they look like they've been run over by a truck and they were $50.
Because they were just red.
They were just destroyed. And you were like, I want something in between on the upper end, but I don't want to pay thousands of dollars. And so this guy had a really nice copy, and we were chatting up a storm about Conan and all this stuff. And he goes, oh man, if you would have bought this like 2 years ago, you probably could have got it for like 2/3 the price. But Conan's hot again. And I was like, oh yeah? And he glances down my badge, and at OmegaCon, they have names on the badge. And he goes, and it's all your fault. And we just started laughing, it was great. And he said, man, I was going to come by and see you tomorrow. I've got a bunch of books from my customers, my pull box customers, because they knew that you were at the show. And I said, well, how many have you got? He says, like half a short box. I said, I'll do them right now. And so he pulled them all out and I signed them all for him. And then he gave me like half price off the book. And I thought, well, this is all. And he goes, why don't you have one of these? I was like, dude, they don't give them out. Like, it's not like you take over the property and they go, now that you're writing Conan, we will give you one of these.
Exactly.
You take that. We got them in the back. We just have a box of the old ones. So, it felt really cool and really nice. And that feeling that you're part of that legacy, that people are associating you with it. When people come over to me at the show now, so in the new Conan series, we did it as a bit of a joke in the first few issues. Matt Murray, the first editor on the series, he gave us all those nicknames like in the 70s, 60s and 70s. So in the book, I'm called Grim Jim Zub.
Yep.
And now I know if people have started reading my work with Conan, because they'll come by my table and they stop and they go, wait, you're Grim Jim. And I'm like, sure, and we'll have a conversation. And a lot of people have said, you don't seem grim at all. And I'm like, yeah, they call the big guy tiny. Like that's the joke, So as much as they were, playing up those kind of titles, Stan the Man was more of like a joke before it became the persona. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope I do not become Grim Jim Zub. And everyone's like, oh, he's so grim. Oh, whatever. So it's, but that kind of thing feels extra special to me because we are at the sharp tip of that conversation. And now there are media conversations happening. And part of the reason why they're happening is because the comic books are hot. Like the way that Fred Malmberg, he's the owner of Conan, who runs Heroic Signatures, the way he explained it to me is he goes, look, the comic book, he says, you hope you can make a movie once a generation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if it does well, then it becomes a repeating kind of a thing. Right. But if not, you put out a video game once every 5 or 6 years, you put out a novel, hopefully once a year, but the comics are the beating heart of the franchise. Mm-hmm. And if the comics are strong, then we are strong because we're constantly reminding people this character is cool. This world is amazing. You need to, make it part of your pop culture habit.
Yep.
And he says, right now the comics are strong. So every conversation is easier. Conversations about more video games and toys and all that stuff. Oh, toys. Oh man.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, check this out. So this is the prototype for the Conan action figure that's going to be coming out. It's currently on pre-order. I got to slip this out of the box here. They sent me one of these bad boys. And it is awesome.
Yeah.
It's just stacked with weapons and all sorts of cool stuff. He's awesome. Super posable, crazy. I don't know if you saw, it's so posable. They got this stop motion animator to do a full animated ad just with the figurine.
I think I saw that.
Cutting and chopping.
Yeah, I absolutely saw that video. That's freaking awesome.
It's amazing. It's so good. And that's just with the figure. They didn't alter it at all. And so this thing is on pre-order, I think, till early October. So just a couple more weeks, 3 more weeks, I think you can order it. And it's based specifically on our run of the series. It's got our artwork all over the thing. On the back, it's got that, this is crazy. This doesn't happen.
That's the kind of thing I was talking about, where it's like,
but it's like, influence. This is, that right now, I'm not even a toy guy. And I'm like, this is so cool.
You'll get this.
But on the other hand, it's like that we're driving that conversation, that people are remembering that they're excited about the Hyborian Age and Conan and everything else because of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that feels, that makes it extra special. I've had books come out in foreign languages, but I couldn't have told you when the French edition came out or when the Spanish edition came out. And I know now when a new language picks up Conan, or I know when one of the real mind-bending issues that we've released comes out in that language, because we get flooded with messages in Portuguese or German or French or whatever, that again it speaks to the fact that we're the sharp tip of the spear on the conversation about Conan, about the Hyborian Age, about this cool property. And that to me feels completely different than any other time I have done a book.
Yeah.
And really special, like something I never, ever want to take for granted, for sure.
Yeah. It, I think, is a testament to the power of comics. That, or at least the potential power of comics, where it's like we've kind of we've almost forgotten Like how influential comics can be and are.
Some of the discussions that people have had inadvertently, we're in this golden age of comic book media, but it also means that you can be a Captain America fan and not read the comics.
Yep.
Because there's enough Spider-Man stuff or Captain America stuff or Superman stuff. And there was before, but not to this degree where you could have the entire picture of the character. That Wolverine trailer came out yesterday for the video game, and it's the most violent, crazy thing I've ever seen. It's so good.
I know, yeah.
But on the other hand, you're like, man, like you need to take advantage of that. You need to do
like
a really Wolverine comic
like a
that is like
Wolverine
mature
book.
readers like that. This is the time because the audience is now grown up enough that they could handle that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And otherwise, the video games are going to run laps around you. You know what I mean?
True.
Like if you don't meet them there, if you're not, pushing that message, if you're not at the front of that train, then you're going to get run over by it.
And speaking to the point that you made earlier, it's like, then they'll dictate the conversation.
Right. I remember Joe Quesada saying that they had to do the origin of Wolverine because otherwise the movies were going to do it.
That's right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll be damned if they are the ones to tell the origin of Wolverine before we do. And it's like, that's
exactly.
a good point.
Yeah. And so I think on that kind of front, it's like, all right, so if we're taking these characters of the Robert E. Howard character library and we're saying in the original Robert E. Howard stories, he peppered in all kinds of crossovers between the characters. There's literally a story called Kings of the Night where Bren McMorn summons the ghost of Kull the Conqueror to come help him fight in a battle in an arm, and that's in the original Robert E. Howard stories. Or Kirawan, the occult investigator, he goes to meet with a friend of his whose wife is going through these murderous episodes, and she is wearing a snake ring, and they actually say it's the ring of Thoth-Amon, So it's like, oh, this completely different genre, this completely different character, and it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like we're upholding a tradition with those characters rather than meddling. I feel like we're creating a tapestry of pop culture or pulp culture, if you want to call it that, that feels in line and honoring the legacy of what's gone before and hopefully elevating some of these lesser characters that people have never heard of before, not lesser in terms of quality, but lesser in terms of visibility, and bringing them to a greater public consciousness using Conan, the thing that everyone knows, as our, ship raising all tide analogy kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
So forth. Yeah.
Yeah. I will screw up that analogy in perfect order here. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
I mean, it's
cool.
It's exciting. It's cool. It's like one of those things where you pick up Conan at any point in the last 24 issues, and it's like, it doesn't look like a licensed book. It doesn't look like
no, it's a passion project.
It looks like it has the same level of quality and care.
Well, there's always been a difference for me. I can always tell when I've worked on licensed books. I've worked on and Marvel books are IP books, and all that sort of stuff. I've worked on books where everyone on the team was hyper passionate about what they were doing, and then there were books where people were like, "Oh, this person needs work. We're assigning them to the project," and you're like, "Okay." Now I have to pump
them up
as much energy into them as possible to make them fall in love with the thing that we're doing, because they're already in the mindset of this is a gig. I got to get this job done, and stuff like that. Yeah. And that is a much harder thing to do. And, the majority of the artists that I've been working with are passionate about the work, but when they're not, or when it is just a gig, or when they're already working on the next gig and they're just trying to get this thing out the door, man, do you feel it? Do you feel that energy just slipping away from you at every single corner?
Yeah.
And no one on Conan feels that way. Everyone is here because they love it. Everyone is here because they want to prove themselves. They understand the legacy that they're a part of. A guy like Fernando Dagnino came to us and literally said, like, is my dream to draw this book, and I'm going to prove it to you. And he did a Savage Sword story and it looked really good. And then he was like, that's not good enough. I can do better. And we were just like, oh, crazy. Okay, cool. Doug Braithwaite didn't grow up on the Howard stuff, but became a fan later on and then realized, oh man, this stuff is really iconic. There are two 2-page spreads that he did in arc 4 of the series that he redrew. He did pencils for a battle scene, and I thought it looked awesome. Looks great, Doug. Beautiful. And then like a week later, he came back and goes, I didn't like it. I completely redrew it.
What?
And we were like, that is an insane amount of extra work. And he was just like, well, it's what the work deserves. And you're like, I mean, you can't bottle that kind of loyalty and enthusiasm and excitement for the work. Yeah. And it comes through on the page, man. It comes through in the quality. Richard Starkings grew up reading Conan. It's one of his favorite series. It's the reason why he's a comic book letterer, and he's a friggin' legend. He came to us and said he had to letter Conan at Titan. And so we brought him into the fold. And now I get messages from Richard every week, and he's nudging a caption here, or he's adjusting a little thing there, or he's asking me what I think. And I'm like, Richard, you're a legend. Looks great still.
Yeah.
You know, the number of times in 25 issues that I've asked him to change something, I could count on one hand. Yeah. And they're usually just like a very minor stylistic whatever, because he pioneered digital lettering. The guy knows, he wrote a book about the history of lettering. He knows everything. And so many of his examples in the Comic Craft Guide to Lettering are from Conan, because that's the stuff that he sees as like pure comic book lettering, like the best in the business. And so to have him doing our book is just, it's crazy. But that's, again, that passion that you see at every juncture, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so cool to be in this space and to be in the midst of it, and to know that like everyone is pushing forward in the same direction. And again, until we stick the landing, until the run is done and you look back, you don't know for sure. But yeah, when people talk about it being like an evergreen run, or they talk about it being really a classic in the making, you're like, cool. I never want to take that for granted. I never want to assume that therefore we are.
Yeah.
We have not arrived. We are still striving to reach it, you know? And that means a lot to me, you know, that I'm never going to stop putting my all into this book, because the rest of the team is relying on me, and I've been given this really amazing, you know, opportunity to get to work on one of these characters once is something, it's rarefied air.
Yeah.
To drop the, you know, the license wrapped up at Marvel, and then I somehow caught the diamond again, and now I'm holding it so tight, like the blood's coming out between my fingers, like that. It feels extra special. It feels really, really, really cool. The artist I'm working with on this is another guy who approached us and said, you know, lifelong Conan fan, gotta be a part of this if it's possible. Yeah. Can I do a pinup or something for Savage Sword? And I'm like, just, is that all you want as a pinup? Is that all you think?
Right.
This guy, Ivan Gill. So he's actually, there's this whole, if you've been just focused on the North American market, have you heard of manga? But beyond manga, the European comic market is filled with these incredible, incredible creators. So Ivan is a Spaniard. He's in Spain, but he's been working in the French market for years. He's been doing these historical graphic novels, or like extensions of real history, you know, some with fictional characters, some with real characters.
Yeah.
So like Napoleonic War stuff.
Oh,
so
cool.
The artwork he showed me in his portfolio was like rows of, you know, mounted horsemen crashing into each other, or guys firing muskets on these very specific battles, and these, and he's being sent,
be accurate too.
Oh, dude, he gets sent hundreds of images of uniforms and the very specific costuming stuff, what equipment they would have had, or here's the battle scene, here's that actual landscape. Please make sure that it's on this kind of a hill and not that kind of a thing. God. Like, these are the kinds of trees that are in that forest. Please don't just draw random foliage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this dude is a detail-oriented environmental artist, beautiful posing, incredible storytelling. And then we said, what if you brought that same level of craft to the Hyborian Age?
Yeah.
And he's done it just phenomenally. The storytelling is amazing. The environments are so lush and well thought out. And it is a fictional world, but because he's putting so much care into it, it feels like it's alive. It feels like we're in these places.
Yeah.
And because the story takes place over 3 different timelines, we're in the Thurian Age, the Hyborian Age, and the 1930s, each one also feels distinct to each other.
And authentic.
So now, when the scenes change, yes, there's a little caption box that'll tell you, good news, you're in the Hyborian Age now. But you know it. You don't, you feel it. You feel it in the composition. You feel it in the architecture, the characters, and everything else. It all hangs together so well. Here we go. Now we're in the 1930s.
Right.
And you're like, look at the bookshelves full of
God.
tomes and all the stuff. Look at all the crazy, beautiful, the level of care and thought that he's putting into these pages really make it come alive. And that's again, it's not the kind of thing that you would get from an artist who's just got to bang it out for the deadline.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man.
It is a really special time. And I keep saying it. I think I've said probably 3 times already in the call, but like, I just never want to take it for granted.
Absolutely.
When you get to meet people like this and work with people like this, you're just like, oh man, this is what it's all about.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like you're taking it for granted. It feels like you're very much celebrating it and like just calling attention to it in a big and
that's the thing. I really want to celebrate the quality of everyone on the team, and that we are really all kind of pushing forward. Someone like Jeff Shanks, so he's our researcher. I don't know, in the back of each issue we have an essay.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a little secret. Originally we were only going to have them in the first 4 issues. They were like, they can provide some extra context as people are coming into Conan for the first time.
Yeah.
And so Jeff he's a literary scholar. He's also in his day job, he's an archaeologist. And he is a pulp collector. He has one of the most insane collections of classic pulp magazines and books and just ephemeria that you can imagine. And he knows his Robert E. Howard like no one else I've ever met before.
Yeah.
And he's a wonderful collaborator. So he's been an amazing source for me where we'll chat up a storm. And I said, in Free Comic Day, we need to have him write a little introduction piece of, hey, if you know nothing about Conan, here's some info.
Summary, yeah.
And then he did such a good job. I said, we should do that in the first few issues. And they were like, that'd be great. And we came to issue 5 and I said, okay, Jeff, here's the subject of the issue 5 essay. Yeah. And he sidebars me and he goes, Jim, I'm only contracted for the first 4. And I was like, just write it. Just write it. Do it. And then we got the essay in and the editor goes, oh, actually, forgot, Jeff, just a quick reminder, you're only in the first 4 issues. And I go, but this is so good. We should just keep this going. I think, Jeff's part of the team now. He's part of the family. We got to keep this going. And so from then on, he's just done an essay in every single issue. And that's the way it should be, that you get more. If you don't read it, fine, you still got a great comic, worth the cover price and what may have you, but it provides more gravity and context and history to what we're doing and gives you a greater appreciation that we've done our homework and that this stuff is part of a grand legacy. Then that's even better. Yeah. I think we were about a dozen issues in and the editor was like, Jeff, you must be running out of material. And just like, are you kidding? This is like a dream for me. Like I get to talk about my favorite stuff. Every month I get this showcase to be able to put stuff up on a pedestal and go, check this out, Awesome. So it really is amazing.
Yeah. And it gives your readers a feeling like they're getting a little more bang for their buck. You're getting a little.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it has been amazing.
Folks, check that out. Before we go, I have to ask Jim this one question because the last time we talked, he hadn't gone, but how was D&D in a castle?
Oh, man. Well, it was good enough that I'm back for another round this fall. So nice. D&D in a Castle, for people who don't know, it's a deluxe vacation package where you go to, there are a couple locations in the States, but the one that I'm going to is in Northern England. It's called Castle Lumley, and it is an actual castle, and you play Dungeons and Dragons. You're there for about 4.5 days, depending on how so you arrive on that first day, you have a welcome dinner and you get to meet your dungeon master. There's usually 6 people at a table. And when I was there last November, there were 12 dungeon masters. So 12 times 6 number of people plus other staff that are helping with support, plus all the staff of the castle who are working there. All your meals are included and all your daily activities are built around essentially these 4-hour blocks. So you have to do, you're doing 8 hours of D&D a day plus other activities. Yeah. So you could be playing other games, or you could be going on historical tours or doing archery lessons or all sorts of other fun things like that. Plus you have your meals and your snacks and your tea time and desserts and all that kind of stuff already taken care of. And so it's this amazing, escapist bubble where you just are playing games.
Yeah.
It felt to me like this supercharged version of when I was in high school and we would get to a weekend and all we had to do was play D&D or role-playing games. Yeah. So we'd go to my buddy Chris's on a Friday night and we would literally play until we couldn't keep our eyes open. Yep. We would crash out in sleeping bags and then wake up the next morning, have breakfast, and then keep going.
Yeah.
but it was like that. But then the next day, then the next day, then the next day.
Yeah.
And so you finish an entire campaign story in those 3.5 days. You're doing 24 hours worth of D&D minimum in that main game. Plus you can pick up games and board games and other activities. And as one of the celebrity dungeon masters, I mean, that's what I was there. The first day was so much pressure because I was like, man, these people are paying all this money.
Yeah.
I got to give them the best experience of their lives. And there's a lot of resources there. They have a huge miniatures and terrain library that you can grab stuff from. There's literally lighting and Bluetooth speakers for music and mood. And so you can make this dream, and you're in a room in a castle. You're in like a beautiful, space with all this old furniture and incredible architecture. So it levels everything up in terms of atmosphere, but you still feel a lot of pressure. Like, I got to give these people their money's worth. And so end of day one, I remember I got finished the first, 8 hours, and my wife was there with me. She was doing support and helping as an assistant with the staff as part of her, she got to be a part of it. But she saw me after my first game day and she's like, you look really happy, but you also look like just hammered garbage. And I was like, yeah, like it was so much energy. And I was just that heightened sense of paying attention to what the players want or what they're responding to. And you're doing improv, but you've also got all your notes and all your planned stuff.
Sure.
And try to be the best version of yourself. It was like being at a convention on a panel for 8 hours, where you're like, don't say anything stupid, or, hey, that person's got a good point. Make sure you bring that into it. But it's for 6 people. It's like a performance.
Yeah.
And I thought, how am I going to do 2.5 more days of this? The players were amazing, but they were also like really reserved because most of them are strangers with each other.
Sure.
So everyone's fear is, I don't want to embarrass myself. And so I think there was a lot of that, like, oh, this is cool. This is a performance. And you're like, no, it's an interaction.
Yeah.
Like you are the players. And they were doing stuff and they were great, but it was like, I felt like I was providing a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And then we all slept that first night, get up the next day, have breakfast together, and then go to the game room. And it was like we'd been playing for a year together.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all the embarrassment, all the nerves, all the just melted away. And we were like ride or die D&D team. And then everyone got into it and everyone was role playing up a storm. And it was amazing. Like I said, some of the most intense and crazy tabletop gaming I've ever done in this totally crazy environment.
Yeah.
And we all got to know each other really well. We had a ton of fun. And I finished this thing up and it was exhausting, but like in the way a good convention is, where you finish the weekend and you go, whoa, that was the time of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I need to sleep for a week. What the hell was that? And so they got the feedback forms and they were like, Jim, we would love to have you come back. And I actually waited a few months before I said yes, because I needed to sort of come down off the runner's high of it or whatever.
And see, like, do I really want to do it again?
And I was like, that was really cool. Is that a one-time deal that I try it out? And I was talking to a couple of the other dungeon masters, a few of the people who had specifically invited me and put me in touch with the people in charge. And they were like, so are you hooked? And I said, I kind of am, but my schedule's so crazy and conventions are so busy and traveling is so much. I don't know if this is a thing I would be doing on a yearly basis. And they just went, sure. Yeah. Oh, I totally understand. And then a few weeks later, you're like, I need to know if that was a repeatable experience. And they go, well, it is, because like B. Dave Walters, one of my buddies, he's done it over a dozen times,
God.
And he's like, well, each one is its own thing, but they're all special in their own way.
Yeah.
And they find their own kind of electricity at the table. You'll see. And I was just like, all right, I do need to see. So I'm doing it again this November. I've got my tables already ready to go. We're already in a chat room, digital chat room. They've made their characters. And so we're already talking about their backstories and how it's all going to relate to the big kind of adventure that I'm putting together.
Awesome.
And I'm excited. I'm nervous. Even though I've done it before, I'm nervous in that way of like, I want to do the best job possible. I want these people to have, not only their money's worth, but their memory's worth. Like, we're going to make something really, really cool with it. And the camaraderie between the dungeon masters was really special. And I'm excited for that again. The good thing is now I've done it. So I know the layout of the castle and I know how those systems work.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer wandering in like, what is this place? Or how do I get there from the train station or any of that stuff?
Totally.
So it's short answer. It was good.
That's great.
Yeah, you know.
Glad to hear it, man. Well, you're going to be at New York Comic Con in only a few short weeks.
It's true.
Oh, God. And
the week that Conan 25 comes out is the week of New York Comic Con.
So folks can go and they can get a special cover.
Yes.
When they get there.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Go to your booth. But otherwise, they want more Jim Zub. You could always check out your Substack, which they've aptly named The Zubstack. Genius.
The Zubstack. And my website, jimzub.com, JIMZUB.com. I have had that website for, drumroll, 26 years.
Holy
so
crap.
They're crazy. I incorporated my old live journal archive in there. So you can read about when I'm in school and afraid of what my future might look like. But it's also got all my my entire,
schedules,
publishing history, my convention schedule, 40 plus tutorial articles about what it's like to work in the industry and things I wish I'd known when I was starting out. It is the Zub hub. It is the collective spot. I don't trust any social media to stick around. So it is where everything is deposited.
It's a good idea. Yeah, it's actually a really good point. Well, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for sharing.
No problem.
And we'll see you guys next time. But otherwise, maybe we'll see more Jim from New York Comic Con. Otherwise,
that'll be awesome.
See you guys later.